Alright, I'm so excited. The hype is real. Doom the Dark Ages is coming out in 2 days, and if you pre-ordered the game, you're going to be able to play it in a couple hours as of the recording of this video. This is my top 5 wants for Doom the Dark Ages. As usual, like, sub, do all the YouTube stuff. Let's get into it. id Software was heavily inspired by the original Doom titles and their sort of projectile, bullet hell, dodging gameplay mechanics. They were inspired so much that they made this a major pillar in the sort of game design philosophy for Doom the Dark Ages. It's going to pair well with the more grounded nature of Doom the Dark Ages, and I can't wait to try it out. But the bright green and red projectiles are a bit too much for me. I know I'm playing a video game, but it just feels a bit too gamey in my opinion. I was able to confirm that there are options within the settings menu that allows you to adjust the projectile colors, but I couldn't really tell how much control you actually have. Like, can you turn them off completely, adjust the color hues, how intense they are? Those are kind of my major questions going into this. For me personally, I would honestly turn off all of them except for the parryable projectiles. You know, maybe just the slightest glow of green coming from those specific projectiles. For everything else, I want to see fireballs with their natural particle effects trailing behind them as they fly across my screen, or even a beautifully rendered rocket as it is propelled towards my face. I really don't want to see any overly artificial bright green and bright red projectiles is essentially where I stand. It's all about appreciating the art direction and the effort that went into designing and creating this beautiful looking game. Not making Doom the Dark Ages into a screen full of glowing green and red stoplights. Again, this is my personal preference. Everyone is allowed to have their own and play their games the way that they want to. But that's going to be my number 5. Let's move on to number 4. The rocket launcher is one of the staple weapons throughout the Doom franchise. It has massive damage output, and it is responsible for so many gibbed demons. On rare occasions, it's also responsible for my own death with point-blank rockets to the face. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal had the rocket launcher, and it did some serious work against the demons. But the devs at id made some odd choices when it came to their weapon arsenals, mods, and upgrades going from Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal. All of the other weapons received new mods and upgrades, except for the rocket launcher. The mods for the rocket launcher were not changed. They were the exact same between both games. You had 2 mod choices or upgrades. You had the remote detonation and the lock-on burst. Sure, this is not really a huge deal by any means, but I think the rocket launcher has so much potential to do something creative with it when it comes to designing mods or upgrades outside of the 2 that it came with in both of these games. Maybe a bouncy grenade type of sorts, or maybe even a slow fat rocket with massive giant damage potential. From my memory, which isn't the best, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you will correct me, actually. Run down into the comments and let me know. But I don't think any of the gameplay demos have shown the rocket launcher for Doom the Dark Ages. I will admit, I have not watched any of the new marketing materials. They did the Cthulhu reveal, the Cosmic Realm reveal, but I haven't watched anything else after that because I really want to dive into this game as blind as possible from here on out. So maybe id Software is trying to keep it secret. They want to allow us to discover the rocket launcher and enjoy its upgrade perks. Either way, we'll have a huge arsenal of weapons with different upgrade paths that'll give us plenty of options on how we want to slay demons in Doom the Dark Ages. But I'll be looking forward to the rocket launcher myself and utilizing one of my favorite weapons in the Dark Ages. Let's move on to number 3. Okay, so I could be corrected on this one, and maybe it's a waste of a spot in my top 5 wants. And spoiler, there is a bonus want at the end of this video, but keep watching, it'll be a nice surprise. Anyways, for number 3, I did not notice any monster infighting. None of the demons on the trailers I've watched were fighting each other in any of the combat situations. To me, I think this is a huge miss for a Doom game. A main feature of the Dark Ages is not only the increased map sizes with larger battlefields, but also an increased number of demons being on screen at any given point. A key strategy in the classic Doom games is to do the circle of death, circle strafe around the enemies, the different enemy types, and get them to hit each other. And it'll cause them to turn on each other and fight. This is extremely satisfying to watch, especially for some of the bigger demons like the Cyber Demon. You know, the Cyber Demon will shoot a volley of 3 rockets in your direction, but you happen to get some monsters to block those rockets and they take all the damage. There's massive damage, a huge AoE that damages other nearby monsters, and if they're not dead, they turn and fight the Cyber Demon. There's actually a classic moment in Doom 2, and if you haven't played, I'm sorry. The game's been out for a very long time. If you haven't played it by now, shame on you, especially if you're watching this video. There's a classic level where you run into a Cyber Demon and a Spider Mastermind in one room. These are 2 of the toughest enemies in the game, and they are both shooting at you. But the way the room is designed is you run along the outer edge and cause them to hit each other. And then you're treated to this beautiful moment of infighting between the Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind. Oh, it's such a treat to watch them just blast each other and see who ends up standing in the end. Sometimes it's the Spider Mastermind, other times it's the Cyber Demon. But yeah, the one that survives in the end turns back to you and fires at you. But at this point, it's been weakened, it's damaged, and all you really have to do is clean up. We'll have to see for ourselves when the game drops. I'd be shocked if id Software did not have monster infighting in Doom the Dark Ages. On to number 2. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal had the talented Mick Gordon as its soundtrack composer. He rewrote some of the classic Doom themes and gave them a more modern sort of rendition and did it in a memorable way. This really helped with adding a level of nostalgia while feeling modern and brutally heavy to match the gameplay. Doom 1 and 2, while their soundtracks were MIDI synth, they were heavily inspired by thrash and grunge metal of the early 90s, while Doom 2016 and Eternal were heavily inspired by gent and deathcore of the modern metal genres. And just to give it recognition, let's not leave out Doom 64, which its soundtrack was quite different. I would compare it more to the work that 9 Inch Nails did for Quake 1. It was much more moodier and ambient, and it really succeeded in creating a sense of dread and scare for Doom 64. Anyhow, we've gotten previews of a couple of the songs that are in Doom the Dark Ages, and Finishing Move is the composer behind the music for this title. And from what I've heard, it sounds like they've got the chops to deliver. So we're being treated by another modern metal style of music, and there's also a hint of unique sort of string instruments to go along with this heavy metal sound. Something else I've also noticed is that there's less of the sort of glitchy text sounds that were very common in Mick Gordon's work for 2016 and Eternal. Mick Gordon, in an interview, stated that it was part of his design to make these kinds of sounds in the soundtrack. He wanted it to sound like the music was infused with argent, which is an energy source in the game that the UAC discovered in Hell to power all of their sci-tech facilities and weapons and technologies. So it's all kind of corrupted from Hell energy. So this is completely speculation on my part, but in the Dark Ages, I don't think the UAC have discovered argent. I think that your toolkit kind of represents that. A lot of your weapons are much more mechanical and medieval in its style direction. So as a result, the music sounds much more chuggy, and it's heavy with its percussions, with less glitchy sounds filling the music. For Doom the Dark Ages, with its medieval settings, there's a good possibility, at least I hope, that Finishing Move maybe takes some of those original Doom songs and reinvents them. Imagine a slower, more ominous version of At Doom's Gate. Maybe even an updated rendition of Rip and Tear with maybe some more orchestral sort of instruments in the background. So yeah, I think it would be amazing if Finishing Move took the time to sort of weave in familiar melodic fragments from some of Doom's original songs and bring them into the Dark Ages setting in a respectful way that also kind of triggers some of that nostalgia. So yeah, this is my number 2. I think this would be a fantastic way to really bridge the history of the franchise and sort of reward us longtime fans. Okay, you've made it to number 1, but if you're enjoying this content, I know, it's the YouTube thing. If you're enjoying this content, consider subscribing to the channel and supporting my content. It means a lot as a growing YouTuber, and it's greatly appreciated, so thank you. Anyhow, my number 1 want for Doom the Dark Ages: show some love for Quake. This medieval setting just screams Quake, especially the Cosmic Reveal trailer. We saw this Lovecraftian setting with its own unique monster designs, which, not gonna lie, really reminded me of The Fiend and maybe even some hints of the Shambler from Quake 1's monsters. The devs could hide a ranger helmet somewhere in a hidden secret area. In case if you don't know, Ranger is the protagonist in Quake 1. Or maybe even a subtle sound effect that comes from Quake. For anyone who's played Quake 1 and is a huge fan, they will notice it right away. Imagine hearing a Vor off in the distance, or maybe the low grunting sounds of a Shambler. This is a huge want of mine, and I highly doubt it, but if there was a boss fight with some sort of monster that kind of looks like a Shambler, maybe even has lightning, I don't know. Like I said, some of these Cosmic Realm Barons, they really do remind me of The Fiend from Quake 1. Maybe even a lore connection. Give us a codex hidden somewhere in the Cosmic Realm that sort of tells a story of a shared universe introducing characters or locations from Quake. Any kind of Quake reference would just put a smile on my face. And I'm also sure that this would just fire up fan speculations on Quake not being a dead franchise. I am once again asking id Software to please give us a modern single-player Quake 1 experience like you did for Doom with Doom 2016. Okay, I lied. Well, I hinted it earlier, but I have one more bonus want, and I'll make this quick. Let us pet the dragon. Let us pet the dragon. Doom Guy needs this. He lost Daisy, his pet bunny. he needs a new pet companion. I want to pet the dragon. And that's gonna wrap up my top 5 wants for Doom: The Dark Ages. What are your top 5 wants? Did by chance we line up on any of these? Let me know, share down in the comments. I can't wait to read yours. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share it with friends and family. I'm sure your mom can't wait to go to hell again and rip and tear through demons. Don't forget to subscribe for more good gaming. Your support means a lot. Also, if you want more content from yours truly, check out this recommended video right here. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.